The culture is absolutely...
The gut ain't running anymore! Calling both games.
New Orleans really needed Deshaun. You could have made a strong argument that bringing him in would have not only revitalized the Saints, but potentially swung open their championship window again. They were damn close to getting him as well, but in the end, Watson chose to go elsewhere. Being that deep over the cap again has its consequences. And while they did restructure a ton of contracts to become compliant, they did end up losing Marcus Williams and Teron Armstead. With the addition of Marcus May and the subtraction of Daniel Sorensen, the Saints are kinda lost. What do they do from here? They tried to go bold, so you might as well kick the can down the road a little bit longer.
Hey, Jameis! You want to come back for another year or two? We'll let you move your food truck next to Cafe Du Monde!
The New Orleans Saints select Chris Olave, wide receiver, Ohio State.
This is where the fun begins. The top 10 was rather regimented, but New Orleans saw a run on wideouts happening and traded up with Washington to take both a compliment and an insurance policy for Michael Thomas. The receiver position for the Saints is very thin after him, and it showed in how poorly they fared on offense last season. There are questions as to how Thomas will return, but having Olave as a plan B on a thin core is absolutely needed. You may think this will bring about order, but you'd be mistaken.
The New Orleans Saints select Trevor Penning, tackle, Northern Iowa.
Teron Armstead's departure left a gaping hole in their offensive line. And Trevor Penning is the Saints' attempt at fixing it. Penning is still raw, but an absolute behemoth. If they develop him properly, New Orleans will all but forget the contributions of Armstead. The best running backs are those that have a great line to run behind, don't you know? Also, here's the Honey Badger has needed help for a secondary dealing with defections. He's coming home, New Orleans. Be ready. It's hard to gauge the Saints. They still have a good chunk of their talent from the playoff runs, but the question is, can it stay healthy enough to make an impact? Michael Thomas is recovering from a major injury, and questions still linger about his potential performance on the field. If he can even get on the field. Famous Jameis did well last season as well, until his major injury. Replacing Teron Armstead's production is critical. We hope that Trevor Penning can beat the shit out of his opponents as well as his own teammates. And then there's the Alvin Kamara question. His ongoing assault trial keeps getting delayed, and the potential spin of the wheel of discipline this season might be in the cards. It's not all bad, though. The Honey Badgers come back home, and if all goes right, the Saints will be a force to be reckoned with. The problem is that a lot has to go right. Can we at least meet in the middle? Even with the teams that are choosing to blow it up and start from scratch, there is still plenty of intrigue with the NFC. So many teams desperate to win a championship or go far into January. And even more trying to make a name for themselves. The NFC East hasn't had a repeat champion in years. So I'm going to maintain that narrative and pick Philly to win it. The NFC North is still Green Bay's to lose, but they're slowly losing grip on their stronghold. The NFC South has a few suitors, but the Bucs are still too loaded to really fail unless they get injured to hell and back. The NFC West? Huge question mark, but I think the Rams are still the team to beat. But what about the wild cards? It's tough to choose, there are so many good options here. In this case, I'm choosing the Niners, Saints, and Vikings. Yes, the Vikings. I think people are sleeping on them. Then again, we've said this about them before, only for them to fall apart. Sorry about that, Minnesota. Atlanta can finally start fresh. They can begin to recover from the horrific traumas that 28-3 wrought on their franchise. With this match against New Orleans, the Falcons are taking the baby steps needed to move forward. They're playing with conviction. Saints are breaking like a religious man on Bourbon Street. New Orleans' offense seems lost without Sean Payton. They can't stop Cordero Patterson or Marcus Mariota. The Falcons are rushing their way to a 16-point lead in the second half. Now, the old Atlanta would have blown this game, but not this time, goddammit. They blew the game. Fucking choked again?
Nope.
Oh God, they've relapsed. We went over the 12 steps, boys. You looked clean, but for all I know, you were getting off to that goddamn fetish of yours again. Perhaps I was wrong. To cure 28-3, you'll have to contract the whole damn franchise. General Sherman had a point. The only way to heal Atlanta is to burn everything to the ground. If you were to tell me that Bucs Saints was going to be the most infuriating offensively challenged game of the week, I would have laughed hysterically at you. Then again, the Saints are without Alvin Kamara, and and Tampa Bay can't convert a 4th and short to save their lives. Here is where we all get concerned about Tom Brady. It looks like his soul's being sucked out of him in press conferences. And with the offense all out of sorts, plus his line destroyed, Brady breaks down like he's at home with Giselle. His team's getting an earful. The poor Microsoft Surface tablets on the sideline are being killed off one by one. We'd feel worse for this genocide, but no one uses those things without being paid to. It took them over 3 quarters to get any semblance of offense going. Fortunately, Brady was so worried about going back to his family that he all but forced his team to victory at gunpoint. Famous Jameis tried to counter with his own punches, but reopening the turnover bakery while fighting off 4 fractures in his back. That's impressive to me. I respect his dedication to feed the poor defenders on the field of play. Doesn't do much for the Saints, but they were banged up. I'll give them a pass here. Sometimes you have to admit when you were wrong. I was willing to give the Saints a pass for last week's offensive ineptitude because of injuries. What the hell happened here? I get Carolina's defense is nothing to scoff at, but to the point of doing next to nothing against it? Pure offensive failure. There was little else to say besides that. If Alvin Kamara wasn't fumbling away key points, the special teams unit was falling straight to the 7th circle of hell. You don't score any of your own until the 4th quarter, that usually isn't the sign of a successful game. Even with his defense bailing him out for a week, Matt Rule will sit around and wonder how this is going to benefit their running game. The Saints just can't hope their defense shuts down opponents until their stars get healthy. They need to do something quick, lest another season be lost like dust in the wind. This year has been a shit show so far, but that doesn't mean it can't be allowed to infect the UK as well. England is dealing with a potential energy crisis, so why not add to it by forcing them to watch the Red Rifle for 60 minutes? No Alvin Kamara either, so what does that equal? The New Orleans Saints withering into a husk. Offensively, it's a mess. For both teams. You apparently want to send England your best and you're giving them 3 quarters of this shit. But then the NFL remembered that they need to develop their international brand. His Majesty's Kingdom managed to get a game that wasn't a complete blowout. Ironically, they paid tribute to the allegedly better football by kicking absolute lasers through the uprights. Yes, even the Vikings. New Orleans even managed to wake up on offense. We have a game. The Saints have the lead after shocking displays of offensive competence, but then the bullshit commences. Adam Thielen is literally ripping Marshawn Lattimore's face off, yet this is solely defensive PI. The British know a thing or two about the refs fucking them over, so they'll accept the Vikings touchdown. And on cue, the Vikings miss the extra point to keep the game a 3-point score. New Orleans doesn't have the talent, but they still have moxie. And they'll go down to at least make it a shot. Will Lutz, they're gonna need a miracle.
For Will Lutz.
Welcome to the NFL, where the insane is normalized. A tie is the reward across the pond. Minnesota now has serve, and they'll do everything to snatch victory. But it has to come by overcoming trauma. The field goal.
Good snap. Good hold. The kick by Joseph. It is good!
The Vikings can make clutch field goals? We truly are in the end times. Too bad their defense can't stop a damn thing, and the Saints still have a glimmer of hope. Well, Lutz, they're gonna need another miracle.
Good snap. Good hold. Lutz's kick on the way! Oh, and it is off the uprights! Double doink!
What do you call a double doink in England? A Welshman? I'm honestly impressed with Lutz. Dude did all of that from 60 yards out. I don't care if the Saints lost. Put that ball in game. Cody Parkey, you've got company for once. Who knew that a matchup between Geno Smith and Andy Dalton with a sprinkling of Taysom football would be an offensive showcase? It's overused in the modern meme world, but this was the ideal battle of mid. Fireworks flying all over the place as teams both make outstanding plays and hilarious mistakes. A true shootout where the only thing that matters at the end of the day is the almighty win. Armies and battalions move around like a hastily constructed chess set. The unforgiving elements of Mercedes-Benz Superdome keeping them at a comfortable temperature. To break the tide of war, New Orleans would need a secret weapon. That man was Taysom Football. They took him out of storage and cleaned the cobwebs off of him. With his element of surprise, Taysom led the Saints with over 100 yards of rushing and big play after big play. Sadly for Seattle, DK Metcalf did not have to take a massive shit. Failure to push out a Lamar doomed them on this day. With this win, New Orleans may have just saved their season. Prettiness of wins need not apply in the Battle of Mid. Just win at any cost. Here we see a group that consistently shoots themselves in the foot with their own actions, and one led by Zach Taylor. Joe Burrow is returning to the land that made him famous, where he and Jamar Chase created magic at LSU. New Orleans itself may jump out to an early lead, but with Burrow, you never have to fear for long. The Saints are injured to hell and back, it's all but assured. His impeccable skill and composure will guide Cincy back into the matchup. It will be a fight to the bitter end. Cincy tries relentlessly to recapture the lead, but the Saints continue to remain one step ahead of them. Despite the efforts of Burrow, the sands in the hourglass are running short. The Bengals are down by 2 with 2 minutes left. We need a throwback for nostalgia's sake.
Burrow throwing this side of the field. Jamar Chase with the catch and up the sideline. And there he goes. Jamar Chase to the end zone for the touchdown.
You missed that, didn't you, New Orleans? Too bad this isn't college and you aren't playing Clemson. The Saints lose yet another heartbreaker in a season that has been full of frustrations. Joe Cool will smoke his victory cigar with pride. He's added another notch to his legacy at the Superdome. Aggravatingly bad. No words have more accurately described the Arizona Cardinals. Even with DeAndre Hopkins back, the struggles to launch are very real. However, the Saints were more than eager to hand the game to them on a silver platter. They took inspiration from some of the great restaurants in New Orleans. The finest pastries and turnovers imported from the Bayou. The Red Rifle shooting blanks to bumbling receivers. 2 charitable pick sixes to be used as a tax write-off at the end of the year. Even Arizona, for as done as they are with Cliff Kingsbury, shit couldn't refuse such gifts. Don't worry, New Orleans. Your season's wrecked, but this draft is very QB heavy at the top. Alright, you traded your first to Philly to move up in the last draft. The sales of Abita Purple Haze are gonna go through the roof. We told you already, Raiders, you can't play the Houston Texans every week. If you look like shit against an aging injury-prone outfit like New Orleans, we have to question what the fuck you're actually doing over there. It feels like we got transported back to 2018 because this was an absolute beatdown. Suffocation by the Saints like they were captured by the insurrection. New Orleans may be looking to trade Alvin Kamara for a haul, but with this game it might give them enough false hope to hold serve. It's easy to look good against a Josh McDaniels team. This offensive mastermind was so stymied that the Raiders only accrued 183 yards for the day. They didn't get past midfield until about 3.5 minutes left in the game. A day so awful that Derek Carr got benched for Jarrett Stidham, who was somehow hiding in McDaniels' duffel bag for months. What a pathetic display. Should have kept Bisaccia, boys. They're still in striking distance for a playoff spot as long as they can stay around 500. The Saints are in the same boat. They're aging and injury prone, they lack quality coaching as in years past, but look how shit the NFC South is this year. The Falcons are leading it. New Orleans still has a chance. Alvin Kamara was only going to be traded if they could get a haul for him. And that wasn't happening with a potential suspension dangling from his neck. They will continue to march on, and hope that they can gain a shred of health and good luck. In a rare instance of sanity, this was an outcome you could see coming from a mile away. New Orleans is a geriatric fighter looking to relive the glory days. Baltimore's the kid trying to get them to go into a retirement home. The Ravens knocked them out cold in the first round, and they did it in all phases. A methodical, relentless defense that forced their opponent into submission. Andy Dalton unable to do anything to prevent the slaughter of Saints. An attack led by Lamar would do the rest. Undermanned and undergunned, Jackson proved his case as to why he'll be getting several helicopters full of money in the offseason. With such a complete performance, New Orleans never stood a chance. The life was squeezed out of them in front of their own fans. In honor of this win, they spread Old Bay over the field so nothing will ever grow again. Such is how it is for Baltimore. This would have been a great matchup to watch a few years ago. We even got to experience it back at the Superdome in 2018. Now, though, we get their hollowed shells. Pittsburgh's at least getting TJ Watt back, but the Saints have no help coming. Their offense would be as rudderless as life without Sean Payton is. no traction for the running game, Andy Dalton firing blanks all day, being unable to do a damn thing whatsoever against Steeler might. The Pigeons lounging on the field had more life than the Saints. Their defense needs hazard pay. They put up that effort only to lose to a Mac Canada offense? That's embarrassing all its own. And there's nothing New Orleans can do to stop the bleeding. Thus results in an ugly-ass game that the Steelers have embraced winning. Mike Tomlin has now won against every team excluding the one he's coached. Philly can thank Pittsburgh for their win later. It only makes their extra first stronger. This is a breakthrough in the Sportsball era. The first Tank Bowl where both teams have no control of their first round pick. Also, we had a team go from Tank Bowl to Super Bowl last year, but not Super Bowl to Tank Bowl. Rams are so apathetic and disinterested in their lot that it's become reality. If you look at this match against the Saints, you'll see why. They are cooked. Not even a nice medium rare, but those completely charred remnants that get caught underneath the grill. The group's so checked out that they'll make Andy Dalton look like an all-pro. His throws to Chris Olave were effortless with how little resistance the Rams gave them. Matthew Stafford was back, thanks for asking. He'd be knocked out of the game with another concussion. Unfortunately, John Wolford was out with injury as well. LA must throw Bryce Perkins into the fire to burn alive. Rams, it's over. When you can't beat the Aints, it's time to pack it in. Sean McVay is slowly dying alive with this failure. It's like they're back in 2016 again. The Saints are the Emmanuel Acho of NFL teams. They're just there. Nobody knows why they keep getting attention from anyone, yet are thrust in our faces to be continually overmatched against their opponents. San Francisco is that next fortunate benefactor of playing New Orleans. The Niner defense has always been a threat to anything resembling opposition, destroying any chance that the Bayou had of trying to score points. San Fran doesn't even have to do all that much with their arsenal of offensive weapons. Just clamp down on New Orleans until they stop moving. Give it a few minutes and they'll be dead. We'll even get some help in this process from this alleged illegal contact penalty on the Saints, and not knowing what the fuck a catch is supposed to be in this day and age. And a missed field goal, and a fumble in the red zone by Alvin Kamara. Let's just end this segment here. The last thing the world needs is more of a spotlight on the Aints getting fucked. The fans have a point though. They got jumped hard by the Zebras. How can something be so bland to watch yet so utterly predictable an outcome? It's Tom Brady, of course anything's possible. New Orleans only had control of the game for a significant portion of time. And by significant, I mean almost 55 minutes. Tampa Bay looked fucking terrible. No offensive line. No running game. Shitty play calling. Brady forced to either eat it in the pocket or airmail deep balls to Julio Jones. This dude has destroyed so many Microsoft Surface tablets while screaming at his team over the years you can declare it a genocide. The Saints are pretty awful, but this is the New Age Tank Division. They'll clamp down and move in their limited state to a 16-3 lead. Should be over, right? We're ignoring that the scriptwriters got lazy and chose to remake a classic for modern audiences. Introducing the Tom Brady template. A foolproof checklist for nearly every Brady comeback in his illustrious career. Unforced fuck-ups by the other team? How about a visibly injured Mark Ingram stepping out of bounds before the goddamn first down marker? Then throwing a random quick screen on a 3rd and 1. And then punting from midfield. That's a definite check. No Brady comebacks without a momentum-changing penalty. How about a long defensive pass interference on a ball Brady missed the target on? It is a fair call the cornerback couldn't adapt to the changing trajectory. That's enough for an easy TD, but we need a 3-and-out to really get the script predictable. Taysom Hill unable to catch a dime from the red rifle on 3rd down will do it. And then the final part. Defensive coordinators going mental by calling soft zone prevent against one of the best passers against zone defenses in league history. Jesus Christ, Saints, can you try not to take a fucking dive? I know you keep failing when it matters and Dennis Allen is a hack, but this is pathetic. Oh, call a penalty on the first TD Brady threw for offensive holding. Can't be that deliberate with the writing. Who cares? The Bucs are winning because New Orleans is awful. Just play the clip.
Underneath, and touchdown, Rachaad White!
Forgive me if I'm completely unimpressed. I don't know how you do that with a 13-point comeback in 5 minutes, but it somehow happened. This win allows Brady to surpass Peyton for most fourth-quarter comebacks in NFL history. But I just feel like I've been insulted by watching this. I still need a loco of the week. Congratulations, New Orleans. You've just won the only trophy you've earned without scandal. And I'm turning into a bitter old man over this shit. It might be time to retire and get a real job. The playoff push is reaching its final stages. Only one spot has been clinched by Philadelphia, but 4 weeks remain. Philadelphia obviously has number 1 seed, but the division is still up for grabs. Minnesota, after an ugly loss this past week, is still 2nd seed, and the NFC North is technically secured as well. The torrid pace of the Niners has them starting to run away with the West in 3rd place right now. But the NFC South is best not discussed. Tampa Bay only has it because the division is straight up awful. Meanwhile, Dallas is sitting pretty with 10 wins and first wild card. After that, it's a mosh pit. Washington and the Giants are currently tied at 7-5-1, and Seattle struggling to maintain form with an easy schedule. Detroit's creeping up though, and don't forget the rest of the garbage in the NFC South still has a chance. The picture will become clearer as time goes on. And as we all know, there's only one rule to follow.
Don't get eliminated!
Oh, Atlanta, will you ever stop blowing games with incredible skill? The Marcus Mariota dynasty has ended as the rightful stopgap it was. Begin the great Desmond Ridder experiment in the hopes to see if he's any good. New Orleans should be a good litmus test for this greenhorn. Considering it's 14-0 Saints at the bat, thanks to the arm of the Red Rifle, not a good start. However, Atlanta is a team trying to overcome past demons. As they bravely move forward, we remember that David Johnson is still in the NFL to no success. Their passing game may be failing, but Tyler Algier is pounding the rock with authority. They must do anything they can to keep up with Andy Dalton's resurgence to a competent quarterback. Despite this struggle, the Falcons try to maintain pace. They'll do it with the rushing attack, and they'll get this game down to a 3-point deficit. However, like most games this season, the choking ways of Atlanta continue to manifest. How does it happen this time? A fumble by Drake London on a drive they were moving the ball. Arthur Smith is probably sitting there wondering why the fuck he even took this job. He must suffer through this cursed season like coaches before him. Good work, Falcons. All of Philly now wants you dead. Why the hell did Desmond Ridder run it out of bounds with no time on the clock? We've had quite a lot of teams reach playoff land this week, didn't we? It doesn't mean we're anywhere close to settling how things will shake out. Philly still holds number 1 seed and can clinch their division with either a win or Dallas loss. Minnesota and San Francisco both clinched their division since there's no elite team rivaling them in division. It's only positioning they're playing for. They won't have to worry about Tampa Bay. They are ass. And their division is even more ass. Please delete it from our existence. The winner of this shit pile will probably be hosting a playoff game against the Cowboys. And we will wish for death. The other 2 wildcard spots are currently held by the Giants and Commies despite the G-Men winning last week. Seattle is falling hard while Detroit is rumbling back into the picture after being left for dead. Green Bay hangs on by a thread. And so does the rest of the NFC South. This is gonna be quite fucky, isn't it? Everyone left, you know what to say.
Don't get eliminated!
You know, I think quarterback may have been the least of Cleveland's issues in hindsight. I mean, maybe a hunch, but when the team is colder than the wind chill of -16, buyer's remorse might be on the docket in the near future. When you have a hard time doing anything on the offensive side of the ball, against an aging, injury-prone outfit, barely able to do anything on their own, you need to take a hard look at the mirror and ask what the fuck you're doing. No, we can ignore that team coaching may have severe flaws and the defense is suspect. We just need an elite quarterback that can carry us to victory. Who gives a shit if said QB is incredibly rusty and playing like shit? It doesn't matter when you can't win against the Saints? Really? You're losing to those guys now. This is a friendly reminder that the $230 million man hasn't done a damn thing to win Cleveland a game. Sorry, Browns fans. This elimination also isn't consensual. With a few big losses this week, the NFL playoff picture has become a mosh pit, as has been written for time eternal. The NFC East is still the same scenario as before. winning clinch for Philly, and that includes the number 1 seed. If Dallas loses once as well, they are doomed to play as a road team in the wild card. The NFC South is still the division that should not exist, and Tampa Bay can seal it away with a win against the Panthers. If Carolina wins, though, we continue down the chaos timeline. New Orleans is still technically alive, but will need a lot to happen to win the South. With wildcards, Dallas most likely will be headed to the NFC South winner. The Giants still sit comfy, a game ahead of Washington for the second spot, with the Commies taking last seat for now. With Detroit and Seattle both losing last week, Green Bay can bullshit their way to a postseason berth with a few more things happening in their favor. But they need the Lions and Seahawks to keep losing. The Saints can also clinch a wild card, but it's an extreme long shot. But it's a shot nonetheless. And if you have that, you can still chant the rule.
Don't get eliminated!
I appreciate that the Eagles are doing everything in their power to nerf their abilities for the sake of storylines. Normally, Gardner Minshew starting should be enough to beat a team as middling and uninspired as the New Orleans Saints. That would be in a normal situation. The only explanation I have is that Jerry Jones bribed Gardner with oodles of cash and/or scantily clad women. It's the only logical answer to how Minshew Mania became a carrier of disease. Honestly, I think Jerry Boy did it for the entire team. They didn't really self-destruct. That would involve going out to some form of sizable lead to begin with. They just didn't show up. They woke up hungover after a night of being Lawrence Taylored with hookers at their hotel rooms and lollygagged through this contest. So now not only does Dallas have a legitimate shot of stealing a division that should have been locked up weeks ago, Philadelphia is now in a state of freefall. Jalen Hurts should be back, and the Giants have nothing to play for now, but I doubt they're going to give the Eagles a break. You wonder why I'm not talking about the Saints' performance? That's simple. They don't deserve it. This win meant nothing for them. Every outcome needed to stay alive failed to happen. They're fucked. Perhaps next time they won't utterly choke against old-ass Tom Brady. This is another game that just kinda happened. If they simply canceled this game, no one would have noticed. But it's only for draft position and jobs for next season, like all good meaningless games. Both teams are completely lost, adrift after losing their identity. Carolina was dead by week 5, for God's sake. With that alone, it's impressive that the Panthers have a winning record since they fired Matt Rule. More shocking because it's in spite of themselves. Sam Darnold saw ghosts all game long. 5 for 15, 43 yards passing, and a QB rating near 0, and they somehow won. Their only touchdown was on a fumble recovery. The Saints are so dead on offense that they just said fuck it and checked out. Will Lutz proceeded to miss a field goal late in the game, and that was that. A testament to terrible football. Yet Eddie Pinheiro finally makes a goddamn field goal in a dome to win it. Hilarious irony. No matter how long you try to kick the can down the road, no matter what's done in effort to prolong life, one thing is certain. You must pay the piper. He does not care if you won or not. He expects his due. New Orleans, you've run out of options. The slow and painful decline of your once proud team has led to an aging, injury-prone outfit with more questions than answers. They still wait for the successor to Breeze with surprisingly decent results from Andy Dalton. What's to occur with Alvin Kamara's assault case is still uncertain, let alone his future with the team. Michael Thomas went from one of the best receivers in the game to one that can't stay on the field. And his injury nightmare will more than likely never leave him the same. The bodies of the fallen lie aplenty. A lost identity featuring a coach who's merely a stand-in for what once was there. Nothing's changing on that front because they know the truth. The Saints are done. This is no longer a team that will threaten for Super Bowls and division titles, but one that must embrace an arduous rebuild. Consistently kicking the can down the road in the form of cap restructures have made them unable to properly upgrade. Any new QB brought in would merely be a band-aid to a gangrenous wound. It's been a long time coming. With Sean Payton being traded for draft picks, the writing is on the wall. It's a cruel outcome to a window that should have featured so much more, but all that's left is bitter defeat. It's been almost 15 years since New Orleans won their ring, you know that? That's an eternity in the football world. Better hold on to that memory tight. The abyss is much darker than you remember it to be. The only embrace will be rubble crushing your spirit and collapses against Tom goddamn Brady. And to add insult to injury, the Eagles have your first round pick this year.